Yo, what is up? A new tank hitting the Leicester server. Kind of a new tank, but not really a new tank. So it's kind of like air quote new tank, because this is the carbon copy of the K-91-2, but this one is the K-91-122, and that's because the K-91-2 has a 100mm gun, and this one has a 122 millimeter boom stick. Now obviously 122 millimeter gun literally means you're going to get a bigger bang for your buck, I presume. The old, well, I want to say old K-91-2, but it's not even been released in the rest of the world yet, but it will soon at some point. The K-91-2 has a 100mm gun with, if I'm not mistaken, 300 alpha damage. That is the proposed damage. But this one with the 122mm gun is going to have a 440 alpha. I think it still remains as a medium tank platform. Now, in terms of the look or the 3D model, it looks exactly the same. It looks exactly the same as a K-91-2. In fact, when I was doing the research on this tank, I was trying to look for any differences. I was looking at the old pictures of the K-91-2. Well, I want to say old because this tank has been out in super tests for a long time. But the model looks the same, the gun looks the same, everything looks the same, but this is going to be a 122, well, it says 122 millimeters gun anyway, but we'll see what happens when it actually releases. Are they going to change something visually about the gun, or the model? Maybe the hull has a little bit of changes, I don't know, but at the moment it is a 122 millimeter gun, 1500 hit points, 900 horsepower engine. The K-91-2 supposedly has a 1000 horsepower engine. The power to weight ratio on the 122 is 18.95. The K-91-2 supposedly has 21 power to weight ratio. The speed is slightly different as well, because the 122 has a 55 km/h top speed, while the K-91-2 is supposedly having 50 km/h top speed. Now, I don't want to go back and forth too much comparing both the tanks, because we have neither of them right now. This is just proposed. This is in the Russian super test, or the Leicester super test, or the Ruby super test, whatever you want to call it. But this is what is planned. So let's see what's going to happen with it. The penetration on the 122 is 220 millimeters. Sorry, not 220 millimeters, 252 millimeters of penetration. I'm not sure what kind of shell is going to be the stock shells, but the premium shells has 300 millimeters of penetration, and the HE shells has 68 millimeters of penetration with 530 damage if you manage to pen with the HE shells. Gun depression as well, you've got 6 degrees of gun depression on the 122 millimeter and 20 degrees of gun elevation of this tank. The shell velocity supposedly 1300 meters per second. Again, I do not know what kind of shells this tank is going to carry, but this is the initial impression and the initial stats that I'm getting out of the Russian server right now. 10 seconds of gun reload. In the 100mm K-91-2, it is supposedly going to have a 6-second gun, which is pretty good. I mean, 6.9 seconds, nearly 7 seconds of reload time on the 100mm gun. In the 122 millimeters, it's going to be 10 seconds. So it's more like a kind of like a medium or heavy tank kind of reload time. But again, this is very early days. I don't know if this is proposed or this is already in super test or they already have it out on their live server. I have no information so far on exactly what is happening with this tank, but you can see from the visuals that it's already in their game. Are they actively testing it out right now? Is it in the proposal stage? We're not too sure yet, but 122 gun is going to be pretty huge, because for a tier 9 with 440 alpha in a medium tank, this is going to make the tank pretty competitive and pretty interesting for a tier 9. Also, the power to weight ratio 18.95 with 900 horsepower. It means this tank is going to be pretty mobile. The rotation as well, 52.15 degrees. This makes the tank very agile and very mobile with pretty high power to weight ratio for a tier 9 tank. So this is going to be a pretty agile, pretty mobile tank with 440 alpha, which is the highlight of this tank literally. And 252 penetration on standard shells, 300 millimeters on premium shells. Again, I can't state this enough. 440 alpha with 2.4 seconds of aim time and pretty good accuracy with 0.33 dispersion. Of course, the aim time 2.4 seconds is nothing to shout about, not that great, but you got to think about it. 440 alpha is going to make this tank pretty interesting and pretty deadly. I hope that the rest of the world will also get this tank, because we have been waiting for this tank for over a year. Supposedly this was supposed to be a tier 8 medium tank. It is now a tier 9 medium tank, and there's 2 versions of this. So very interesting days ahead. Let's see what's going to happen. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.